saying that it's not great, so that's good. Yeah, so I'm Ellie. I'm 26. I'm from England originally, but I moved to New Zealand when I was 12, so 14 years ago. And to nutshell how I began with writing, I started. I've always been creative. I've always had that creative spark in me. I've always been writing scripts and stories ever since I could. And then when I left college when I was 18, I went on a gap year before I started uni. And while I was in France for 4 months, and it was hugely transformative. I met the most incredible host family that I'm still really close with now. And yeah, the whole process of living with them really opened my eyes to a lot of things about myself as a person, as a young person becoming an adult. And when I came back to New Zealand, there was a few other experiences I had during the year, but that one really obviously stood out. And when I came back to New Zealand, I did my film degree. So my tertiary education is in film writing and acting. But when I came back, I saw the host family a couple more times. I went to visit them overseas and saw them a couple more times. And as I started to build that connection with them even more from afar, the little things kept sparking in my mind, just wanting to create art or some kind of, film or book or something. That idea just ruminated in my head for ages. And then one day I just got the idea for the title of my book, The Big Sister Project. It just literally popped into my head one day, out of nowhere. I think I was just walking down the street. And as soon as it popped into my head, I knew exactly what the whole book was going to be about and how many chapters there were going to be. It was almost like the plan was just given to me. It was quite profound at the time, I think. And yeah, from about, I think it was December 2017, I got the idea and I published the book within a year. Just went powerhouse writing throughout the whole thing. It was stressful because I was working full time and I had my side work as a videographer and photographer. But yeah, for about a year, I was writing this memoir about that au pair experience, just those coming of age years, discussing all kinds of stuff from language barriers to making friends to, personal stuff and navigating things when my host family weren't around. Yeah, it was great fun. Really enjoyed it. It feels like so long ago now that it happened, but I'm really, loving the journey that's unfolded since then.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. What an incredible story. I actually must get that on Amazon and read it.
yeah, it's on Amazon really cheaply as an ebook, so you'll definitely find it. I think Jimmy's got the link.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah, Ellie, just amazing the things that you've done. So, I think a lot of us, we get the idea just like from somewhere, like me too. Just one day I decided to start writing, and then that's the beginning of my journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it is so awesome that you actually sharing your experiences, the struggle, the things that you faced in overseas, and showing to other people by writing a book. I heard, so I understand that you are the coach for the youth and the youth adults.
Yeah, so that was never something I actually planned on doing. It was one of those things that unfolded like post publishing. I think, as you guys must know as authors as well, that usually the self-publishing route tends to be publish your book and then speak about the book. And during the year after publishing, I obviously did the whole, networking, going to networking events, making sure that I was showing up to opportunities where other speakers were talking so I could make connections. And I was also just, seeing how people work with their story. And for the first year, I was speaking in schools in Auckland, just about au pairing really and going overseas, and just that whole figuring out what to do next with your life. So that my story kind of helped me talk to young people about making that decision of what to do next. And I really enjoyed just connecting with people online in that way and through schools. But then towards the end of, when would it have been? I think it was actually the end of 2019, so just before COVID hit. I made the bold decision to actually quit full-time work, even though I had it and it was well paid, and I actually threw myself into the actual coaching thing instead of just working in the whole work what to do next from school. I actually evolved it into what to do with your life in general when you're struggling, because there are lots of decisions that come before what to do next at school, and there's a lot of things around navigating friendships and navigating troubles at home and everything else that teenagers and young kids face. And as it kind of made sense after a while that was where I wanted to be, because when I was in school myself at a college, I had really great youth leaders, and I was often in leadership roles at school, and had a lot of opportunity to grow my skill set. And so when it kind of came to actually creating a business where I was a coach, all of those things just fell into place. And those experiences of me really being outside my comfort zone and creatively reflecting on my own personal experience through my book, it really helped me understand self-reflection on a deeper level. And yeah, it's kind of taken off from there.
Wow. That's amazing. So are you still doing the coaching mainly youth or the parents?
At the moment, it's with youth. The youngest kids I work with are 11, and the oldest is 24. And then there's a couple of others that I see occasionally that are anywhere between there. So that age group. So it's all over. I have actually done one event for parents in November last year with Stacey, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, we did an event for parents, which was really cool. It was called Horizons. It was all about helping parents help their kids set goals and discuss what's next for them. And then actually, it's funny you mentioned parents, because that has been on my radar for a long time, to do more work with parents, because I see it's a massive need. Because often, when you work with, it's like the same at school, you have parents evening, the parents need to know what's going on, or would like to know how they can support their kids at home. And yeah, so in August, on August 11, I'll be speaking at as part of a panel at a parenting event, and I'm going to be talking about friendships and self-worth and confidence, and there'll be other topics as well. But yeah, I'm definitely starting to collaborate more with people that are working in that space of parents and youth, because it's family units at the end of the day that need all-round guidance. Yeah.
So can I'm just really I just really want to ask, why youth and why parenting? Why you decided to? I mean, like, what's the trigger? What kind of trigger you had to decide to be a coach for the youth? I mean, from my point of view, youth is. I mean, my son is 22, thank God. But it's really hard when you are with teenagers. I just can't imagine to be a youth coach. So can you please tell me what made you decide to be a youth coach?
I love that question. What made me decide? I know this sounds really cheesy, but I think the role chose me a little bit. I've always had an ability to work with all ages. I've always enjoyed being around people. And when I published my book that following year, I deliberately had various jobs instead of one full-time job. So I had flexibility to work with, speaking about my book, but I also had roles in teaching. So I was teaching drama to all age groups with disabilities and able-bodied teenagers as well. And I was teaching French, and I really just love that space where I can pass something on. And what I've learned over those periods of time where I have been in a mentoring role is, yes, I can totally understand what you mean about the challenge and that facing the challenge of, oh my gosh, they're a teenager, and how do I navigate this? But I think what I have learned above everything through all my jobs of teaching over the years is everyone just wants to be seen and heard. They don't want to be necessarily told what to do. They don't want to be given advice necessarily, but we always, we're kind of conditioned and brought up to think that as older people, we need to always know what to say and do. But teaching has actually taught me that we don't, which is it's not common knowledge, and it's not a common belief, but we actually don't always need to know what to say and do. And when we don't actually think to ourselves, okay, I'm working with teenagers, so therefore I need to give them all my life experience and make sure that they know these are the rules and everything else. I kind of flip that on its head a bit. And I've seen how transformative that can be. I've seen how much when I step back and just facilitate and ask provoking questions and provide a space where people feel safe to explore themselves and what they can contribute, amazing things can happen. And I think partly as well, I hope that answered the question. I'm not sure, I tend to ramble. But I'm also, I think because I'm only 26 myself, nearly 27, I'm still in that age where I'm not a dinosaur to young people. I'm not like a teacher. I'm not seen as this big scary adult. I'm kind of in that young person vibe as well. And I'm on the cusp of still understanding where they're at, which helps.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, and it's great. I can see that you're really doing great work for the young people, and also for the parents. So, have you actually studied the young adults psychology or something like that, or you just self-study? How did you do that?
Yeah, that's another interesting one, and it's something that I wouldn't say battled with, but it was definitely something I had to come to terms with, because I actually I'm not a formally qualified youth worker or psychologist or therapist or counselor or anything like that. I and I don't claim to be either, so no one I've ever worked with has thought that that's what I am. So I have basically, I think I'd say since childhood, I've always had opportunities to be in leadership roles. So that kind of side of me has always been nurtured, and I've always been quite good at making things happen and getting stuff done. And then from the age of about 14, 15, I was always a leader on camps or a leader in holiday programs or residential programs and things. So I was constantly having that opportunity to see what it was like to be a leader of group work and working one-to-one with younger people, even at my age, not being much older than them. So I have that wealth of experience to start with in 3 different countries. And I also, over the past couple of years, I have done a life coaching certification and done some youth mentoring professional development as well. So I've kind of have done some certifications to kind of get the formal knowledge and a little bit more broad New Zealand based knowledge as well, which has been really helpful. I also, I do self-study. I'm always reading, got a huge mountain of books on, personal development and growth and psychology and trauma and everything else that comes with growing up. And I've got a lot of people around me as well that do similar work and work with similar age groups that can teach me things, and we collaborate. So I'm not one for discarding the importance of formal education. I know it's completely invaluable and it will get you places, but I think because of the nature of how I've gone about my work, it's never been straightforward. It's always been a bit of zigzagging, and I've really valued every single experience I've had through doing that, and it's really helped. Yeah.
Wow, amazing! Just thank you so much. You are so still young, and you've achieved so much. It's just incredible. But I can see you must have such a passion to help those young people, and that is obviously leading you to all those opportunities, I think. But I think maybe I'm just gonna ask some other. You guys want to Christian, Ellie, anyone, you can just take off your microphone thing and mute button, and would you like to talk? Anyone?
I would like to ask Ellie whereabouts in England you're from, because obviously I'm English too, so that's always of interest, really.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Birmingham, believe it or not.
My accent. You don't have an accent.
No,
that's interesting.
Yeah, my accent fizzled out quite quickly when we moved here. I was the first one to pick up the Kiwiness, but I wouldn't say I'm. My mum's from Bristol. but I was born and raised in Birmingham. But I think since we moved here and I've travelled around a bit, my accent's kind of mellowed. So now people can tell I'm English, but they couldn't pick where.
No, that's right. Well, they do say, I think, that if you emigrate before the age of 12, you do lose your accent, but after that, generally you don't. I didn't get here till I was 59, so there's no hope of me losing mine. But interestingly, I was interviewed by a guy in Las Vegas on Friday.
Oh, wow.
And he thought I was Kiwi by my accent, so I was very excited because he didn't pick up the Englishness at all, which was really
I couldn't. I think you're the most English person I've spoken to for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can definitely tell.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, but I was absolutely thrilled when he said he thought I sounded like a Kiwi. So anyway, that's beside the point. But thank you, Ellie. That was really interesting to hear you speak. I'm quite fascinated because you're actually the age of my daughter.
Oh, wow.
And I just am hugely impressed with your generation. I mean, Lucy and all her friends, they're all so well educated, so articulate, so passionate. I just think you're a great generation. And everyone I know of that age they're just fabulous young people. And it's a joy. So good for you for trying to help the next generation. That's really, really important, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really lovely.
Ellie, Tess here.
Hi.
Are you planning on writing another book?
Aha, that's the question. I swore down. That's the question that I swore down after I published my first one. I was like, never again. It was so stressful because it was just a crazy process. I think I'd never been so sleep deprived in my life. But I think, yes, I would actually. But I think it's the concept of what the book will be about is changing constantly. And it's evolving into something. And I know that when it does happen, it will be more of an easy process because I think the knowledge that I've gained and the experiences I've had I'll be able to articulate them a lot more clearly than I would have about a year ago. And I know that there's something for me to write around self-discovery or connecting with yourself on a deeper level as a young person specifically. So yeah, I think I will. I just have no idea when. Hopefully in the next few years.
Yeah. I found that the writing was easy. It just flowed. I had no sleepless nights. It just flowed.
Yeah.
And that was fine. Basically because I just wrote as I speak.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to worry. I just had my mind map of the points that I wanted to make in each chapter and just did it. But the publishing part,
yeah.
To be quite honest with you, I cannot remember now how I published it. And when I come to publish this one, I'm going to have to relearn all that. And I'm just getting into the marketing side of it now. And it's taken a wee while for me to work out all this online marketing business. And I found that all the stuff that I learned, I spent a year learning, is out of date already. And so this year, the stuff that I'm learning, it's a whole new world already.
It is. Everything changes so quick.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get cracking and put it all into action before it all becomes obsolete and something new takes over.
I totally agree with you. Everything, even since even last month, the trends of what's needed and stuff changes so quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's we've got to give ourselves a break sometimes, and just be like, you know what, we don't know everything and we're never going to know it all. As long as we know how to get on Facebook, it's all good.
The trouble with Facebook is it just keeps changing all the time.
Yeah.
And it's getting more and more difficult to navigate, whereas it used to be easy. And now we keep getting all these updates and things, and then we find that it's just a whole new board game. Yeah. And it's gone from Monopoly to chess, and
and I don't even know how to play chess. So yeah, that's a heck of a lot more complicated for me.
Yeah, I think that's the whole problem, is that it's just don't know how to do. And so we have to learn how to do it. And by the time you've learned how to do it, it's changed again and it's become snakes and ladders or something.
Yeah. I'm loving the comparisons. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so anyway, but it makes it all fun and it keeps you learning something new every day.
You do.
Keeps you going.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah. And Sheree P. Liz.
Oh, yes, yep. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, Ali, gosh, just listening to you, it's so inspiring.
Thank you.
You naturally have leadership qualities, and silly, Ali, in terms of leadership, was that something that you had to learn or work hard, or and also I just find it really, really refreshing. I must be on a different planet, but it's just so refreshing to hear you talk about your experience. You're so mature, very mature actually.
Thank you.
And still very young as well at the same time. But I'm just, thanks Julie, because like I said, I think I'm probably on a different planet. I mean, I work in information technology and understand digital world, everything changes all the time.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to keep up with times and keep up with technology, otherwise you're left behind.
Yeah.
But I am just incredibly, just awe-inspiring with the journey. And yeah, so back to the question in terms of leadership.
Leadership, yeah.
Yeah, did that come to you naturally? And also, what's your motivation? What's your biggest motivation?
Ooh, I like that. I love that question. The leadership thing, I think I've always been the one in my family that mum jokes about, that, you know, my siblings were the ones that would never want to be on the stage in a school production, and I was always the one that wanted the main part and cried if I didn't get it. So I've always been the noisier one, let's put it that way. And I guess I wouldn't want to be centre stage now, but I still love public speaking, which I know a lot of people like tremble at the idea of that. But I've learned to channel my nerves differently now, and I absolutely love it. But yeah, I think as a kid, just having that opportunity to be on stage, and that having that personality trait, you know, that you always see certain kids in certain classes that will have that. I think that's always been there for sure. And as I say, just during high school and stuff, being put in positions where you're like a house cultural captain, or, you know, leader of a sports team or something, you kind of find your feet. Sometimes I have had falls for sure. I've definitely failed a lot of times. Definitely wondered what the heck I was doing, and, you know, felt out of my comfort zone. But yeah, I think it's always been something that I've liked doing. I've liked being a leader. I've liked being able to generate ideas with people and just help them. But I've also, you know, like I said, I've failed a lot of times, and I've learned how to refine leadership as well. So, you know, back in the day, and I think the concept of leadership's changed as well. You know, when I was younger, it was all about the leader is the one that says what happens. The leader is the one you have to follow. The leader is the one that makes the decisions. And now it's more so the leader is just a facilitator of whatever's going on. The leader is the one that, you know, can get on the same page as everyone and just be this kind of spokesperson for the ones that don't necessarily want to speak up, and make sure that everyone else is kind of in balance. So it's more of like a voice rather than the dominant thing at the top. And then what was the second part? My motivation. That's huge. I think living in New Zealand's really opened my eyes to a lot of things, but one of them is just, you know, there's a lot of inequality. There's a lot of people that don't get a say. There's a lot of people that have to fight more than others. I mean, I know it's the same everywhere, but New Zealand, I didn't notice it as much growing up in the UK, because I think, you know, as well, being younger, I wouldn't have noticed, but I don't remember it being like a prominent thing in my face. But when I moved here, it was really obvious, and I've definitely grown up with that education as well. Like during school, we were made aware of that, and I knew people, and I've seen it. And I worked at a place called the Mind Lab for a couple of years, and travelled around the country interviewing teachers in schools across the whole country about the Mind Labs program. And it was fascinating, because I went into every school you can think of, from Decile 1 right through to 10, rural, city-bound, everything and in between. And just seeing and talking to the kids in between filming, and just understanding their struggles and stuff, it kind of sparked something in me. And I think when I was a teenager as well, I went to a Friday night youth group. It was a religious one, but I wasn't a religious. I don't have that background, but I was always, just interested in whatever, open to anything. And I had positive leaders around me that never used to force anything on me. They used to just hold space for me. They used to allow me to be myself. Again, gave me leadership opportunities. And I think just over time, there's just an amalgamation of all the things I'd been exposed to, all the opportunities I'd had. And yeah, as I say, writing my story and having that trigger to connect with people overseas about helping them become au pairs or travel, that evolved into actually, well, I've got more to give. I've got more experience I can share here about just struggles in general that young people face, and kind of just grew from there. So the motivation, I guess, is just seeing so much need and feeling that I've got qualities that are needed and wanted, and people resonate with. So yeah, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm able to contribute, and there's nothing better than seeing the little breakthroughs that young people have when they do the work, and they do sit with themselves and do that exploration. Yeah, hope that helped.
Exactly. I really liked what you said about leadership, though. I think it's important not to enforce anything on people, but allow them to be themselves, just as you've experienced yourself as well too.
Yeah.
And seen it through different lens, through the children.
Yeah.
So no, thank you very much, Ali. I really appreciate your insight and your experiences. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. It was a great question.
Hello, Liz. Do you want to ask something?
Hi, Yumi. Hi, evening, ladies. Sorry, I joined a bit later. So it's nice meeting you, Ali. I didn't catch the first half of your introduction, but you sound like an amazing person. Definitely someone I'd love to introduce my 14-year-old daughter to one day.
Okay.
So as I said, I joined in a bit later, but from what I've heard, it's amazing, and from my experience, as a coach as well, and the journey of my experience, I've learned a lot about young children, and it's funny, myself and Yumi, we spoke about it the other day, is like how important it is to really listen and give the young people time to talk. Because I did have my 14-year-old tell me one day as a Mom, I just need you to listen to me. I don't need any advice. I just want you to listen. And that was one of the things that really, I wouldn't say shook me, but was a really big realization and a aha moment for me. But listening to you, I'm not amazed, because I've actually met quite a few of your generation, and I learned a lot. So I learned a lot from your generation, and I think, like Tess says, I think Tess mentioned is as well, you're absolutely amazing leaders, and it's good to know that my teenage daughter has that kind of opportunity to look up to amazing leaders like yourself, Ellie. So thank you for taking the time and us getting to know you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate what you said there about the generation in general, and the fact that you've had that aha moment, because you're similar to you with your experience with meeting young people. I've also met parents in your position as well that have had similar interactions with their teenagers, and that getting used to new styles of communication and flipping old paradigms on their head of you always needing to know how to respond, and letting go of old ways of doing things and settling into new ones. And it's quite powerful way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, so that's what I do try and do as a coach, because I've learned for myself and trying to help parents understand that, the teenagers has all the wisdom and the answers that they're actually looking for.
Yeah.
So it's trying to, and it's lovely that you mentioned the transformation of old traditional thinking and ways of doing, is to actually help the parents, release and let go of old paradigms, and to realize that it's new times, new transformation, and completely new things that our children are exposed to that we still need to learn more of, actually.
Yeah.
And they are actually our best teachers. So, absolutely.
Definitely. Thank you. Really appreciate your sharing.
Yeah, so Ellie, I have a couple more questions. The one of them is, so what's next? What's your next goal, or what's your dream, kind of? What would you like to do next? Because you're already achieving so much, and I've seen just briefly your Facebook page and stuff. You're doing so many things, and you're only 26. So yeah, I'd just like to know what's next for you.
What's next for me? I think COVID had a bit of, put the stop on a lot of things, but it's helped me reassess how much those things actually did mean to me. I really love traveling. I always have, and part of me wants to go overseas again and connect with international organisations that work with families and teenagers. In 2020, I was actually on track to go to an international school in Bali and run some workshops in their school. It was all ready to go, and then COVID got in the way. And there was a couple of international au pair agencies that had one in China, one in the UK, one in Finland, I think it was, that I was in touch with, that I was going to come over and do some speaking and workshops with, just to kind of help them with navigating getting young people out of schools and into traveling more. So I had lots of things that I wanted to do that were overseas, but then obviously COVID stopped it. But I think having that break and being forced to kind of sit still for the first time in my life, and really focus on that, what's next, it helped me kind of refine what it was I could bring to the table. And I think now my goal is to still go overseas and connect with those agencies, but I think the level of work that I want to do is quite a bit deeper, and I'd like to go a bit more. I think when I first started, it was quite, I wouldn't say surface, but it was quite generic and quite blanket, I guess. And now I've kind of honed in on what works in, through what I do, and how to approach people and how to facilitate particular workshops and things. So yeah, I think I haven't got an exact goal yet, but just traveling and connecting is a big one for me as soon as possible. And in the meantime, before that, like I said, collaboration is a great way to start. Speaking on more panels, I'd like to do more public speaking. Like I said, I've got that parenting event in August, and we're hoping to do it around the country as well. There's quite a lot of speakers that are chopping and changing for different locations. Just broadening the impact, I guess. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And have you actually had some struggle to, because what I mean is like those opportunities and those chances, were they falling onto you, or did you go around make a network first, or how did you manage to do so many things in a short period of time?
I think with the international school, that was a connection that I made in Sydney. So I did, when I published my book, that first year of publication, I went to the Speakers Institute in Sydney, which is, I think they're an Australian based organisation, but they're international as well, but they train public speakers. And I went to a 3-day boot camp there to kind of refine my message and get some, video of me speaking and learn some professional skills. But while I was there, this was a couple of years ago, I met a lady there that really loved my message, and her kids had gone to this school in Bali, and she put me in touch with the people there. So that opportunity, I guess, came from meeting someone that believed in what I was doing and had a connection. But other ones, I think it's basically been through social media. just through Instagram mainly, because that was where I do most of my posting. Facebook, I share it across to Facebook, but I think Instagram was where I was doing most of my outreach. And I think the one thing I can credit that to would be consistency, which I have been a bit slack on lately because I've been flapping about a bit trying to figure out exactly what I'm, because it's always evolving what I'm trying to do. But I think for the first year or so, I was super consistent on my message and who I was talking to, and very focused on a particular niche. So I think as the message evolves, the niche and the people you speak to evolves as with it, you know. So it can chop and change with interaction and stuff. But yeah,
Right.
it was a mixture, I think.
Right. Yeah. I heard about those. The social media marketing strategy is the key. But I still struggling with that. But
yeah,
because of the you guys obviously your generation, it's probably very natural to you, but for us like myself to it's really sometimes I really have to think about what's that mean, you know, like
yeah.
we have to think, but yeah, that's amazing. So is there any struggle that you felt on this journey of your book and publishing and also speaking?
I would definitely say that there has been a struggle. Yeah, I don't think anything comes without a struggle. I have found schools have been really hard to get into. Initially, when I published my book and when I was focusing mostly on au pairing and getting kids to go overseas or travel or have a gap year, that was my initial message, I found it really hard to get schools to let me in and talk about that, because most of them are about university. You know, they've usually got their quotas they have to meet. So there was a couple of friends that I had that were teachers that kind of helped me through the door of a couple of schools, which was great. But then I kind of found the battle beyond that was quite a lot of effort. So I wouldn't say I gave up on it, but I just evolved it so that I can still reach young people, but just not necessarily through the school gates. So that's been a big hurdle. And I'm not writing it off as a future opportunity. But it seems there's more international interest rather than local, which is always an eye opener. I find New Zealand's got quite a lot of that. I wouldn't say tall poppy syndrome. Well, it does, but that's another subject. But I think there's quite a lot of competition for that, and I think schools need to be careful who they associate with, because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not like qualified in that sense with what I'm talking about. I'm just going off experience. So sometimes they would, you know, if they're going to pay someone to come in and talk, it would probably be wise of them to. Yeah.
Right.
So that's been my main struggle.
So when you felt that kind of struggle, how did you overcome that though? Especially with your age, you know, like us when we grow old, we kind of know a bit better to overcome. But you know, with your age, I just thought it's amazing that you could overcome all that.
It was hard because it was one of my initial goals. I really wanted to get into schools because, you know, the original when I wrote my book, part of the reason I wrote it at the time was because when I was in high school, and I said this in the beginning of the story as well, when I was in high school and I went to the the advice, the careers counsellors and stuff, and went to the open days for different universities, no one wanted to talk about gap years or taking time off first or travelling or au pairing or international opportunities. And you know, whenever I went near it, everyone freaked out, and even my friends didn't really know how to help me because they were all going straight into study. So I felt quite alone in it. And then you start to question yourself. So that was my main drive for going into school. So it was a bit of a setback because I thought, well, no one's talking about this, and this is a problem, because I remember how I felt when I was sitting at the computer in tears, like, how do I plan my gap year? Am I wasting my time, you know? And I think really I just kind of sat with it at the time, to be honest. I don't remember having a meltdown about it, but I did start to question whether it was worth trying to persist in that way and try and just keep harassing them, or just be consistent online and show up at different events and connect with different people that could have that whole word of mouth thing going on, you know, which actually ended up working out better. And since I've been since I've actually been coaching some young people one-to-one, I know two of them have actually left school a couple of years early and started online learning because the school wasn't catering to the way they learned and what they wanted to do with their life. You know?
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a bit of surrender, I guess. That's a good word. A bit of surrender to the fact that things don't always work out. But I would say, yeah, just because there's a lot of young people in New Zealand, it's not the only way you can reach them, you know.
Yes. Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Ellie. You got such a wisdom for your age. Just amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so the ladies, do you have any other questions? And I just want to give some chances to the ladies in the bottom. Naish and Sanai-san, would you like to come up and ask something? I'm going to invite Naish if she wants to come.
Oh, it's Naish.
You're me.
Hi.
Ellie, how are you?
Hey, Naish, I remember you.
I remember you too.
It's been ages.
I know, it's been a couple of years.
How have you been?
Yes, I'm just like everybody else. You know, you sound not older, but you sound more experienced than your age, like you can see. I wanted to ask you, if you didn't find work as an au pair, what would your career have been? What other career options have you looked at or considered or thought about?
That's a great question. I think you've probably seen from some of the stuff I've done for Easy Moves. I like videography as well and photography. And my background, my education background is actually in filmmaking. I did a film degree at uni, and ever since I was a kid, I've been writing scripts and stuff. So I think I probably would have pursued the film industry more. And it's not off the cards, to be honest. I still think part of me wants to still get into directing and writing again. And I have just recently finished in term 2. I did a weekly program on Thursday evenings. I was teaching kids how to write film scripts. So that part of me is very much still alive. So I think I'd probably be somewhere in the film industry, hopefully, or theatre. Yeah.
Awesome. Another question I wanted to, can I ask you how did you get on the path to becoming au pair? Did you already know that you wanted to do that, or was it travel that inspired you or language that inspired you, or was it that you really wanted to work with kids, or was it all of it?
I'd say it's a bit of all of it. I can nutshell it for you. So, because I'm from the UK, the first time I moved here when I was 12, and the first holiday back there that I had was when I was 17, so 5 years later. And at that stage, I had an international student friend in Germany that I'd met in New Zealand. So while I was in the UK, I took a very quick flight to Germany, because it's only an hour away from England, to visit her. And that was the first time I'd flown on a plane by myself and met her. So I was really, really excited and nervous about that. And I think that was the catalyst of that. Oh my gosh, travel is so easy in Europe. I really love this, but I never knew exactly what to do with it. All I knew is that I wanted to travel more. So then I had my final year at college, and initially was planning a gap year with my best friend at the time, but then she kind of backed out because she decided she wanted to study instead. So I was kind of at the end of year 13, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with a whole year? Now that I've deferred my uni place, what do I do now? And my mum was actually, she loves this because it was kind of, I give her a lot of credit. She actually said to me one night when I was, and this is in my book as well, she said, I was upset thinking, what am I going to do? And she said, well, Elle, you've learnt French for 5 years and you've done a lot of work with kids. Why don't you be an au pair? And I didn't even know what an au pair was when she said it. I was like, what even is that? And she said, oh, it's like a nanny, but you live with a host family. And I was like, okay. So I just did some Googling. And the next thing you know, I booked a flight to Switzerland.
Wow.
It was very much, so I wouldn't say it's something I always wanted to do, but it made perfect sense when it was suggested. And I booked it to stay with them for 3 months of the year and then go to the UK, but I ended up extending it for a month because I love them to bits.
Awesome. And everyone's been talking how young you were. I'm thinking so young and applying for
an au pair job. Was that difficult for you because you were so young and, you know,
yeah,
your experience? How was that for you?
Yeah, no, the au pair thing itself, the website I went through, the agency I went through was all free. So it was like, you know, we could pick and choose host families we liked and stuff from online profiles and connect with them that way. So that the actual application side was pretty easy because it's kind of like a dating app, I guess. You kind of match and then decide if you like each other. But the actual process of getting there, because the rest of my family's in the UK, I knew that I'd go there after au pairing, so I had somewhere to go. So I had that safety net, which does help if you're going somewhere completely foreign. But at the same time, I know a lot of people that have gone somewhere where they know absolutely nobody locally. But you know, at the time, because I knew that I wanted to have a gap year about a year in advance of actually leaving, about a year and a half in advance, I got myself a part-time job and deliberately didn't have an FPOS card so that I couldn't take money out. And every time I wanted cash, because I was still in school and I didn't really need one as much, I'd get mum to get cash out for me so I know exactly how much I was spending. But at the time, minimum wage was like $13 an hour. So somehow, in a year and a half, on $13 an hour on a weekend job, managed to save enough for a few months, you know, and a bit of extra travel. So it's something you probably, you know, unless you've got some savings already, it's not something you can kind of just jump into. You do get to live for free at the host family's house, and you do get pocket money, they call it. It's like I'd say about 120 New Zealand dollars a week ish. So it's decent. Like, you don't have really any expenses either, but it's something you kind of do need to mentally prepare for and have some backup plans for sure.
Awesome. Just one more question. What advice do you give young people who are looking at writing a book?
Ooh. Young people looking at writing a book, advice. I would definitely say this quote that I lived by, which is, don't stop when you're writing the first draft, because you'll never finish. So there's a quote that says, the first draft is you telling yourself the story. And basically that is, don't worry about how shocking it might be and how rubbish it might be, because at the end of it, once you've got to the end, basically that first lot was you getting everything out of your head. And you need to do that before you can start editing anything or making sense of anything. And I mean, over time, I think now I'd be able to not necessarily do that. I could probably stop and start and go back and forth. And like my book, I didn't write it in order either, because I was going off of dates and times that I had to kind of go back through. But I think, first timers, definitely just get it out of your head first. Don't stop. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Ali. It was good chatting with you.
Yeah, you
awesome
too,
to hear
mate.
your story.
Thank you. I really appreciate your questions, and your photo's gorgeous as well, by the way. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ellie, for this time. And for the last chance, ladies, if you have anything else to ask, last chance. No.
Ali, what I was going to ask you or tell you about is, where do you actually live?
Right now, I live in Howick, in Auckland.
Oh, in Auckland. Wonderful. Because, have you got any books left to sell?
Yeah, I've got quite a few, actually. I've got a couple of boxes, yeah.
Oh, good. Because we're just organising a book signing and selling event in Tauranga.
Oh, wow.
In November.
Awesome.
And wondered if you would perhaps like to come along and join us for the day.
Absolutely. Yes, I'd love to.
Because you can sell your books, talk to the public, and autograph the books for them, have a chat, network. We'll all be there. Well, myself and Pat and Cherie and Yumi will be there.
Yeah.
Selling our books as well, and that you can get to network with other authors, and hopefully we'll have some other. Cherie is an editor, so she will be there in that capacity, and publishers, printers, coaches, mentors, people, all sorts of people tied up with books. But it's a great opportunity actually to sell your book. So if you would like to join us, your details are on your Facebook page, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I'd absolutely love to.
I can message you.
Yeah, thank you.
And give you all the details. That would be wonderful. It'd be lovely. Then we can all get to meet you in person.
That would be great. I love it when we get to meet in person.
That'd be awesome, won't it, ladies?
Party.
Yes, sounds good. Thank you.
Oh,
It's
good.
will be fabulous.
Yes.
I'll send you all the details then. That'd be great.
Yes, please do.
Ellie, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Really inspiring listening to you talking. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you too. I really loved all the questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Ellie. We've thoroughly enjoyed having you on the show, and hopefully you'll join us again.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, we have to bring you back, Ellie. You're just very inspiring.
Oh,
and,
thank you.
Yeah, and ladies, please make sure that you're going to click Ellie's button, the icon, and then you follow her. And also, if you haven't followed anyone else, please follow everyone.
Yeah.
And please go to Ellie's. Ellie, have you got your Instagram account on your screen?
Yeah, and I've got my website as well. So if anyone's interested in the coaching side or even buying a physical copy of the book, you can do that on my website as well. Yeah.
So please, everyone, go to her Instagram and get her book. It's very interesting. Okay, and so thank you so much, Ellie, again. And so we always doing this on Monday night. So if you don't have anything to do, if you just want to listen to lovely, friendly ladies here, and and also for the Tauranga book fair, that'd be great.
I'd love to. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. I've really appreciated being able to talk like this. It's been a while since I've spoken about my book, so yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
great.
you, Yumi.
Okay. So I think it's nearly time to finish the room. So thank you again for ladies coming to listen to us and joining us. And hope you guys had a good time. And let's keep making a network and make more friends. And Sanai-san, you didn't come up and speak, but that's okay. Maybe next time. And Naish, thank you so much for coming up and spoke to us. And Liz T, thank you so much for coming today. And and all the main ladies, thank you so much for tonight.
Thank you, Yumi, Ellie. Please carry on.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, do the good work. It's amazing.
Thank you. Have a nice evening, everyone.
You guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Keep safe. Bye.
Good night.
Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you later.